Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. My voice is almost unwrecked, but it's still wrecked. So that's fun. But hey, it is what it is. If I don't get too heated up and emotional tonight, maybe then, just maybe, it'll be recovered sometime very soon. Oh my goodness, it has been a fucking weekend, guys. Life is like a chain of hills and valleys or whatever. I don't know. I don't have any more wisdom than that. That's just what it is. But look, we are coming off of what I consider to be an absolutely great show on Friday. It was a fucking blast. 6-person panel. We got a little bit of drama. We got a little bit of rage and anger. We got a whole lot of discussion on this case that I really like. The subject matter of, I don't like that it happened. I just like the subject matter because I think parental rights are very important, and it clashes with this idea of, let's be fair to medical care providers. Parental rights clash with the concept of providing the maximum amount of care to children who don't have agency. And that's really critical here because, on one hand, we're like, parents get to say everything about their kids. It's their kid, right? Well, what if that parent's decisions are putting their child's life in danger? And there's a ton of people who do, right? There are a ton of parents whose medical decisions or whatever objectively put their kid in danger. How much do we allow the parent to own that? How much do we allow the a medical care provider to step in? And then ultimately the state, what are the barriers of that? Because freedom is really, really uncomfortable when we start getting into these questions. How do we do this? I mean, freedom is risk, ultimately. But if we recognize natural rights, those natural rights vest sort of at 18, but they exist before you're 18. Your free speech doesn't not exist because you're not 18. Just maybe that in certain circumstances, you don't have the requisite legally recognized agency to do what you want to do. It doesn't mean the right isn't there. It means the right might be curtailed or subject to a greater right, someone else's interest taking yours over. For example, as a 15-year-old, you have the authority to go into South Chicago and just start screaming the N-word, right? But your parents' interest in keeping you alive might mean that they exercise a greater authority, trumps your free speech, and keep you from dying. Like that's a thing. And conflicting, those two conflicting rights, this isn't a government question, right? But those two conflicting rights do have a weighted scale. And we have to assess like where a right becomes subservient to another person's interest for whatever reason. And once you're 18, that calculus changes. So anyway, we got a whole lot of stuff that kind of boils down into this ultimate question of, when does a hospital have the ability and authority to step in and offer what they consider to be life-saving care for a child who they are considering as being abused? But of course, the jury said, not this case, not in this case. But does that mean not in every case? No, of course not. But it is uncomfortable trying to figure out where the line is, because we do have the freedom to practice certain religions, right? But we know that like religious freedom exists for adults in a lot of ways, but does it really exist for children of religious parents? I mean, do my children have the option to not go to church? Maybe. They've never asked. It's never come up. But that's an implied That's an implied answer. They're raised to do this. They've done it their entire lives. It's the life they know. It's what they believe to be correct. If they wanted to do something else, we'd have to have a discussion. I don't know how the discussion would go. It'd probably depend on why. What are their points? We've always taught our children to be reasonable, rational, and logical as they can be. It doesn't mean they are. They're kids and they're people. But if we do or say something that that they find questionable or objectionable for some reason, they are allowed to respectfully bring that to us and offer a position as to why maybe it's not the best idea. And sometimes they're right. Now their ability to do that obviously is almost non-existent when there's danger. If a kid is running towards a road and you tell them to stop because you see a bus coming and they're like, but look, I have a rational reason for running towards, or they keep running, they're going to die. So there are obviously times where that subsides, but there are things where it's like, well, we believe this. I can give you a good example. The other day, we realized that they were not practicing music at the rate that their classes require them to practice it. And so they were looking for time to practice music. And Lady Raggeds came up with this idea like, well, you guys like to use your iPads or your computers or whatever for leisure activity rather than like they use them for school, but also for leisure activity. So if you want to do it for anything that's not related to school, you have to have your music practiced first. So you practice your music, you have breakfast, and then you can do this. Well, one of our kids is like, this isn't going to be the best system. And we're like, shut your mouth, you little, what do you mean? And they say, well, not everyone wakes up at the same time. And so if someone wakes up really early and goes straight to the piano or violin right outside the doorway, because they're pretty close to the piano's really close to where they sleep, and they start hammering away on the piano, no one's going to be able to sleep. And it's going to be very disturbing to people who have different, they're homeschooled and they have different activities. So they have different schedules all throughout the day. Well, that's a really good reason to not do this sort of blanket approach that would be perfectly acceptable if everybody was on the same schedule. That would be fine, but that's not how we operate. So we had to retool it. We had to come up with other ways to get that endeavor taken care of. And that's the kind of impact that works. That's subservient to parents. We've tried to raise our kids that way, but they don't do this on major philosophical life choices. Usually that comes later. And, I'm fully prepared for our adult children to make different decisions about even like denominational decisions about religion, non-religion, or switching or marrying a spouse with some sort of maybe a different perspective. I have no idea what will come up, but I know that I'm prepared for those discussions from adults. From children, it's a different question, and it would require them to just present their case. I think that's how a lot of people ultimately do approach problems, even if they don't think they do. But there are some people who are just like, no, while you're a kid in my house, it's my rules. Like, well, yeah, but what if your rule is dumb? Anyway, this is a lot of rambling to say that religious freedom exists in some capacity. It's usually obviously relegated to adults, not so much for kids. But what if that religious freedom is to undertake a religious doctrine that will not allow confirmed life-saving care for an easily diagnosed medical status, right? Like you can think of various cancers that someone can have that we have a very, very good success rate on treating. But there are denominations and sects of religions that do not allow the type of care that would be necessary to actually accomplish that goal. And if a parent has undertaken that religion and then says that their kid has, how do we then determine where that balancing test ends? It's easy, though, if the kid is like, I don't even believe in this crap, right? Save me. That's one status. But what if the kid does? What if the kid's like 8 and they're like, no, I definitely believe that that bedside prayer healing will deliver me from this cancer that is a really high effective chemo treatment, right? That's a hard question. That's tough. Very, very tough. And it's hard to answer where freedom falls on that. Because on one hand, you have religious freedom, then you have parental rights and the idea that a parent is free to raise their child in their own belief system and structure. But then you have the question of, if the child doesn't have agency, can the child make the decision? Therefore, does a state need to intervene? And the answer isn't clear or obvious. Because if you say, yeah, well, the state gets to intervene, well, then you're not free. You're not free. You've given up a freedom for security, and that is something people get to do. If you just say, well, no, the state never gets to intervene, well, you're going to have dead children who would have chosen to live if they had the agency to do so. And that's also an acceptable outcome when you know what it is. But that's why these questions get so damn difficult, and why we fight over them, and why they're stressful, and why they're important. And it's how we structure our society. And there's not right answers. There's just right answers within our moral concepts. And it's great. I love it. I love it. Angela Simpson says kids can have sex gender changes, but can't have surgery to save their lives. What country? No. You're misunderstanding something. You're misunderstanding where the decision is being made that the child can't have surgery. If someone is imposing their religious beliefs on their child, and those religious beliefs would not accept the medical treatment necessary to do it, then the parent on behalf of the child would be choosing no. That's the idea. It's not that the kid is disallowed to have it by the doctor or the state or something like that. It's that the parent's free choice to raise their children in their own belief system now conflicts with that child's ability to live. And they may faithfully believe that that child will be healed. And the child might, we don't know until the child is actually either healed or dies. But we have a pretty good idea of how the medical procedure will work on some things, not on everything. You can't expand this out, but on some things we're pretty good at dealing with it. So it just creates tough questions. And that's why they're heated discussions and heated debates. That's part of all of this, is what society do we build? What rights do we recognize? How far do they go? Where does the state step in? Again, there's not right answers to this, because everybody's got, that's the whole point. Everybody's got these differing perspectives, but I love it. That was Friday's show, though. It was heated at times. It was fun most of the time. There's a lot of good discussion, and I had a great time with it. I hope you guys did too. I would love to bring more of those types of shows back in on issues like that. As a result of that show, we have to acknowledge something. A lot of people have been talking about various segments of that show. It's become a popular topic. And a tiny wee man named Legal Mindset was actually discussing it with Stephen Gosney today. Right before I came on the show, I was peeping in a little bit just to see what was going on and listening to some of their very astute and educated discussion over there. And I have to say, they got into this topic versus of logic and rationality versus emotion in argument and in law. And I've got some words to say on it, because I think I tried to send some super chats to clarify my position in a mild and friendly opposition to Andrew, because I think he was cheapening something. And I think a lot of people in the audiences of these legal channels have a real big problem understanding this aspect of law and this aspect of lawyer that exists. And I've noticed this from the start, and I'll talk about it from time to time, but it's the idea that lawyers are rational, reasonable analysis factories that look at things analytically without emotion or anything like that. And it's the most demonstrably retarded position to have on the entire planet. Lawyers do not, probably to the tune of 99% of lawyers do not do this, even when they think they are. And it's silly to think otherwise, because we are actually advocates first. We are advocates first. Now, I think what's going on with mindset is I'm sending in super chats. It's text. He has to try and interpret exactly what I'm going to say. So if he wants to chat sometime, I would love to do so. I think it's a great subject to talk about. But you see it in a lot of the chats on our channels. The chatters are saying stuff like, well, law analysis needs to be completely devoid of emotion. Well, no. Like if law analysis was completely devoid of emotion, law would never change. Nothing would ever change. It'd all be static. That's not true. It just isn't. Now, you may have to give a cold analytical perspective to someone if they're paying you for legal analysis, right? Like you may have to do that. But even then, you're often not doing that because you know your client. You've spoken with them. You know their dreams, their ideas, their understandings. You know where they're frustrating and stubborn. And you're taking all of that into consideration. And ultimately, you are persuading your client of an idea, even if that idea is a quote unquote purely analytical assessment of the situation. Because I guarantee you some other lawyer can look at it and give them a different purely analytical assessment of the situation. And so I do want to talk about that a little bit. To stir the drama pot, I guess, of the Lawtube drama. There's a bunch of people thirsting for that little moments of conflict on Friday to become some massive like rift throughout this community or whatever it is, because some people really, really thrive on that type of entertainment. That's fine. Like, I don't care. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not mad at anybody. I don't think that everybody acted in the best way. And I think that some people may have realized that their actions were less than what they would like to present. I, of course, acted exactly as I expected me to act. I thought it was fucking hilarious. People start going goddamn nuts over this case that we have no control over. Like we're just commenting about it and offering these perspectives for people to consider. And then suddenly it's like profanity is going, middle fingers are flying, blood pressures are up. And I'm like, of course this is going to happen. And it's, that's because it's funny. Like we all like drama. Drama is what makes everything interesting. Now, drama is a word that has many meanings and definitions, so chill the fuck out on it. But like the dramatic aspect of everything is what makes the world interesting. And I think the discussion got very dramatic. I don't think that it means there's any drama that didn't already exist or anything like that. But I don't know. I really like the Friday show, but I am going to get into a little bit of discussion about that sort of dramatic element in mild counter to what Gosney and Mindset are doing. Now, I have no idea how long Legal Mindset is absent-minded says, you know damn well the drama was not caused by the case. No, I between Megan and Kurt, no, obviously not. I never claimed that it was. I said their drama already existed, pre-existing. Well, this is the inference. I didn't use their names. Obviously, they have some history that came to the surface on Friday. I wasn't actually aiming for that. I did, kind of get the okay from everybody as to who was going to be on the panel. If you notice, there are only two people listed on the description of that panel because those were the only two people I had pre-invited to the show. Other people either had requested links or I found out that they were covering the trial and stuff like that. So I sent out links, but the people who were on there knew about who else would be on there, even the ones who came in kind of in the middle for the most part, except for Runkle, because Runkle's like no one can be mad at Runkle, right? I don't know of anybody who's actually could be mad at Runkle. He's such a nice, great, genuine dude. But yeah. So I want to talk about it. I want to perpetuate the drama. I don't know if Mindset is going, like how long he's going to go on his show. If he wants to come on here after his show and talk about it, I would love to. I think he's I haven't talked to him in forever. And I think it's a great subject to really kind of get into. And I'd love to clarify my points for him because I wasn't trying to, I'm not trying to like argue against him or whatever. Absent-minded says, and you didn't think that was going to be an issue? Megan is the drama llama. She's drama all the time, everywhere. The perspectives on Friday are very fun. They're very, very fun. I love them. And I will let that be. Oh, Mindset stream is over. Let me send him a message, see if he wants to pop on and talk about this just for a little bit. Hold on, I'm gonna send it. I don't know what his day looks like. Mindset. Hey, whore. Want to come on my show for a few minutes and talk about that logical versus emotional bit. I don't think I was getting it across as well as I wanted to and didn't want to keep paying you, you bastard. There we go. So we'll see if he wants to. He's welcome to come on. Always like talking to him. He's a great conversationalist and a great dude in general. And but I'm curious where he would come down if I actually like get to articulate those points in real time or more completely. So but we will talk about that, whether he comes on or not. We're gonna talk about that for a little bit. Then we're gonna go into this new Supreme Court ethics rules that they have set for themselves and what they mean, which is not much. And then we're going to move into punishing attorneys who dare to question the election, because that is a thing that has been going on. That is a thing that's been going on for a while. And it's funny that like people are asked to file cases on behalf of a client, and now they're seeing huge sanctions. They're seeing their licenses in jeopardy. And some of them may have acted poorly, but not all of them did. But the punishment is insane. And it is a message. Shaquille Oatmeal says your voice changed. Well, I'm losing it. I lost it more on, I guess it was Friday is when it started to go bad. Saturday was really bad. And someone said, don't pretend like me and Mindset are friends. Wait, are we not friends? Shit. I better send him another text. Hey, just heard we aren't friends. Shit. I guess now I have to make fun of you. There we go. What about Sean? Why does everybody think I'm not friends with Sean? What is going on? Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, let's get these super chats and then we'll get into it. Making law simple first. Joined at Paralegal. Thank you. Orion says, could I get a happy birthday for my brother Ryan, R-Y-N-E, who turned 39 and is 1 year older to being an old man? Absolutely. Absolutely. Frederick Little says, when will Drex come back? I don't know. I was talking to him the other day, but school years, we don't see each other too often because of kids' schedules and stuff. But I would love to hang out with him. Maybe Christmas break or something. I'm not sure. A lot of times we have to kind of wait for holidays and stuff. I don't know what his schedule's like. I don't even know what mine's like. But as soon as he can be back, here we go. Looking for the whiskey I was looking for. Hey, what's up, Nina? What's up, Gosney? Gosney, you could join me too if you wanted for just a few minutes about what I was super chatting about. I know my show runs really late, but if you want to talk about that for a few minutes, I'm about to jump into that topic. Pulver says, nah, no Drex for a bit. I need a break. Drex hasn't been on in months, man. Holy shit. That was low watermark drop 50 memberships. Thank you so much. Wow. You give me the vapors. Give me the vapors. Let me see if I can send this to Ghazi. Mindset's out. I'm gonna try and schedule with him. He says that we could do it tomorrow, but I can't. I can't. Tomorrow I have an interview with Ron Coleman, which was supposed to be Wednesday, but Ron Coleman's going to be on tomorrow instead. And then Wednesday is going to be Megan Fox and Robert Barnes. So that's the guess we have so far this week. Let me send Ghazni this. Ghazni, check your text messages or whatever. Oh, Camelot, I already said hi to you in private. It's actually not true. Been here for 30 minutes. Well, when you get your bar license, then I'll talk to you. Just kidding, buddy. MLS says, looking forward to streaming with you in Valhalla awaits on Saturday. I got to get back to you on that. I got to check times. I will see about it. I will see about it. Low watermark, again, thank you for those 50 memberships. That's fucking crazy. Palmyra Productions, welcome to Paralegal Status. And Jim Satala says the Sean stuff was because Worski PPP had a Tard stream where they were trying to imply that Sean was allowed to spill all the tea about you. Super gay. Wait, allowed to spill? Do I have control over Sean now? Oh my God. The amount of control over people that I keep finding out I have is phenomenal. Yeah, Half Irish. I know it's the Lego stream. That would be Saturday. If I can make it, I will, but I have to check with schedules here at home. Team F Squid says, nice way of calling me retarded. Oh, was that you? Well, I stand by it. Just kidding, buddy. I probably shouldn't have generalized, but it's hard to convey full thoughts in a super. Of course, which is exactly what I've been complaining about too. The point we were trying to make to Mindset was that Megan's perspective definitely clashed with Kurt's perspective on the legal analysis on medical malpractice. Yes. I was also trying to avoid calling Kurt a beta bitch for losing his cool. Oh, shit. Ghazni, yes. Ghazni, let me email Ghazni because he's 9,000 years old. I'm just going to email it to him. Hold on. Just got to find it, Ghazni. We couldn't find the person you're looking for. Oh, wait, there it is. Steve Ghazni. Can I just send him an email, please? Join me. Ghazni, I don't know why you're not hearing me do all this. I just sent you an email of the invite to the show. Let me get my headphones on. Leon's Law says, hey, Nick, coming up on 2 years of being an attorney, 4 years of watching, been working at a firm and have my own firm and has been going very well. Shame me into going solo. That part in Kermit voice. Dude, I don't think I can do Kermit's voice when my voice sounds like this. I do not think that that is a thing I can do. Okay, so Ghazni, I have sent you the email with a link to the show. And I also texted it to you. So either one. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I don't know. Yeah, the Kermit voice is going to be really rough. Hey, buddy, maybe you should go solo because you always know you can do it better by yourself. At least that's what your mom tells me. Dude, cheers. 2 years of being an attorney. Look, here's when you go solo. You go solo when you can, by focusing more on your solo practice, replace the income you have from the other firm. and you find that the other firm is not giving or is not offering the marketing, networking, and advancement opportunities that you need to better yourself as an attorney, or if you develop a sufficient specialization that allows you to branch out on your own and offer something that the other firm is not capable of doing. So cheers to you, though. Keep slugging away at it, man. It is not an easy profession. Anybody who says it is not correct, as every lawyer will tell you. But go get it, brother. Cheers. Speaking of not easy, what's up, Gosney?
Hey, what's happening? I don't know what's going on, man. I'm just over here. My wife went to bed at 9, and I'm like, what are you going to bed so early? She's like, I'm tired. And I'm like, I'm not tired. I'm like the exact opposite. I'm all energized. And so I come on Mindset unexpectedly, and now you send me a link to my tablet, which I didn't have access to because I'm low-tech boomer.
You are embarrassing.
It's
embarrassing on this stuff. But hey, so obviously I was watching you and Legal Mindset from the shower, thinking dreamy thoughts about you two. And I was like, they're talking about me in my show. So I have to intervene and interject.
Well, I gotta say, I have to admit, I did not understand either one of your super chats and what you were trying to communicate and what you were reacting to. So maybe
okay. So someone in the chat said something about legal analysis being this discussion of emotional versus logical and analytical.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't agree with that. That's what Mindset was. I was trying to. It's his show, but I was trying to interject. I didn't agree with that. I think that it was. I didn't think Megan Fox was being emotional. I thought that she was looking at it like a juror or like a general public, and who has a lot of knowledge, and that what happened was that first of all, there's history there. There's bad. Kurt doesn't like Megan. We know that. But then he was looking at it very narrow, like this legal point and this legal analysis, and she was addressing much broader points, and there was so much crosstalk going on that nobody was communicating, and then it got frustrated.
Right. And if only Megan Fox were in the chat, I would invite her, but she's definitely not here. So that's too bad. We'll just have to keep going.
What is she? Is she? Are you commenting? Is she in the chat?
Yeah, she's in the chat. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to bring her on right now because I want to
talk about her without behind her back.
Yeah, I want to talk about her to her face, but not to her face, if you know what I mean. No, I love Megan. I think she's great. And you said she's talking about it like a juror. That's actually exactly what both Legal Vices and I said. And I think it's really valuable to have that perspective for a couple reasons, which I said on the show, but let me briefly reiterate. Juries are this magical place where you get somewhat past a legal analysis. The legal analysis tends to happen at the early stages of cases. In civil cases, I would say more so than criminal, because in criminal, you have to just, you have to have probable cause. Once you have probable cause, you can bring charges, right? But in civil, right. In civil cases, yeah, we're not going to talk about what prosecutors do, Steve.
Right.
But in civil cases, there's a little bit of a different thing. And it's you make a claim that is, depending on if you have notice pleading or higher pleading standards, the claim either has to be cognizable to be addressed by the defendant under notice pleading, or if you go farther than that, you have to actually lay a factual foundation, not an evidence-based foundation, but at least a factual foundation that is sufficient to sustain every element of every claim. This is what we see as the federal pleading standard, the Twombly-Iqbal line of cases, which, you...
Why are you talking all these big words?
To survive a 12B6 motion to dismiss in federal court, you have to plead sufficient facts. Now, those facts may turn out to be untrue, but you have to provide the basis. And then you argue over the facts, right? So we get to this point, though, where the legal analysis comes down to, are there sufficient facts present to bring this case to an end that is knowable? Right? That's the legal analysis. If you go past, if you have there being sufficient facts that are not in dispute, then you have summary judgment and the case is over.
Right.
Done. Or you have a dismissal and the case goes away if you don't have them. But once you have sufficient facts and there's a dispute, now we go to a fact finder, which is either a judge in a bench trial or a jury in a jury trial. And their job is to listen to facts from both sides and determine what the best case scenario for truth is based on all sorts of shit, their own intuition, just how they feel about a particular juror or a particular piece of evidence. Do they trust it? All these facts come in and they choose the best facts, which is really hard for analytical people to understand, because analytical people go, no, there's just a fact. The valve was open or the valve was closed. And it's like, well, the valve was kind of open or the valve closed over time or someone brushed past it is the reality. But analytical people want to look at a set of facts and then say, well, now we know what happened.
Yeah,
but in jury trials, you often don't know what happened. You get a best idea that you can.
My pushback on all of the lawyers on the panel, and is that the jury is part of the system. People are part of the system. It's not a mechanical engineering project. It is a people business, and people's emotions and perceptions and powerful facts make for a case. And a good lawyer, a good trial lawyer, understands how to present a story and a narrative in a human way and communicate with human people. It's not this test tube science project wherein if we understand the law and we've got all the numbers right, then we win, because the intervention of the jury. And so, I think that it's a mistake to look at things hyper analytically. It's not math. It's very fuzzy. And in fact, I teach for Andrew Branca in criminal law, and I'm doing criminal procedure. And there's a lot of engineer types and computer programmer types that are taking that class, right?
Yeah.
And they're retired engineers, and they said, I've always wanted to be a lawyer, right? And I will say some of the worst lawyer types are engineering types. And so I have a whole bunch of slides that preface these people. I said, I did this just for them. And I said, here's how you need to understand law as opposed to engineering. You need to stop that analytical stuff and say there's two sides, there's arguments, there's appeals, there's positions, and it's fuzzy, it's gray, it's not certain. And this is where I think that a lot of lawyers, when they start doing their legal analysis, make a mistake. They fail to factor in the human factor.
Yeah, I agree. But and when that came up on the show that you were just on with Mindset, there was a specific thing he said. He said at trial, maybe. And he's like, he went on to say, but I deliver, legal analysis that is analytical, et cetera, to clients all the time. I think that is truncating what's going on, because lawyers are advocates for their clients all the time, not just in court, not just in filings, not just before a crowd, but we're always advocating for our clients, and our clients will ask us a question. You can have tons of clients, by the way, guys, that you never go to a courtroom with. Commercial attorneys often will never take one of their clients into a courtroom because they don't have to. Their purpose is to give commercial advice through legal issues, advice in contract and stuff like that. But to suggest that you go to every one of your clients and even suggest that there's a majority of clients that you approach with a purely analytical take on a situation, I think is not correct. I don't think it's honest. I don't think it's either trying to kind of gloss what we do, or it is maybe not recognizing what we do. And that was my second super chat to Andrew. I said, he misread it a little bit, but I said, Andrew, you human by nature, not your human by nature, you human by nature. He's a guy who operates on pure charisma on YouTube. That's like half of his channel. Like when he's not Andrew, Legal Mindset. When
Legal Mindset operates on pure. No, I don't think that's true, because his Disney analysis is second to none.
No, stop. Yes, of course his analysis is great, but Legal Mindset operates on charisma. He's an entertainer.
Well, so are you. I mean, you're much more likable than me.
Yes, of course. I operate on charisma.
Well, you don't have to agree so quickly.
God damn it. Steve, I'm about to fly down to that stupid little penis-shaped state you lived in and circumcise the shit out of it and put you on the end. Okay, listen, this is not a slam on Legal Mindset's analysis at all. I'm saying that here you have a guy whose presence on YouTube and what he does, and when he's talking about law is one thing, and he has this other part of him where he talks about male-female dynamics, men's issues, stuff like that. All of it's great. And he's operating on charisma. He's a tall guy who's handsome. He's well-spoken. He's smart. He's witty. He's funny. He's great. I want to hug him all the time. And
you're going a little far.
To say that he's not taking that into his analysis, that he's delivering then to a client. Of course, Andrew has a way he thinks his client should act. We all do. You're going to give him the analysis, of course. You say, look, you do this thing, you go to prison. You do this thing, you don't. There's emotion involved in that. And to say it's a purely an analytical thing, I don't think is a good service to lawyers. And the only reason I bring this up is because we see it all the time in these chats. We see it from people exactly like you're talking about. I come from a family of engineers, right? And so you see it from engineers. You see it from computer programmers. They want A/B analysis, A/B testing on everything. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no.
Right,
once we know the yeses, once we know the nos, we have the answer. It's algorithmic and math. But that's not law. And it never is, not in any context. And so ever since I started this channel, people are like, oh, lawyers are supposed to be unbiased. Lawyers are supposed to be analytical. Well, we are analytical, but we are also operating on elements of human personality, emotion, persuasion, appeal. We are appealing. We want you to do the thing that we think will keep you out of prison. We want you to do the thing that we think will expand your business. We want you to do the thing that will not engage you in civil liability to the best of our understanding. The thing that should be the most analytical place on earth is tax law. And you find a tax lawyer who is not desperately trying to convince their client to act in one way or another, and they don't know the answer, because neither does the IRS. It's never math. It's not. And so I was mildly countering the idea that we are these analytical machines that operate in black and white legal analysis. It's plainly untrue. Otherwise, we wouldn't need us. If it was always black and white, you just need to determine the facts. You don't need lawyers to determine facts. We're good at drawing them out because we're trained to ask questions. We're trained to listen. We're trained to find potential avenues for weakness or dishonesty and then probe those. But anyone can be trained to do that. You don't need to be a lawyer to do so.
Well, yes, and we have a term for that, and it's called jury appeal. So, when we analyze cases from there'll be the legal analysis. Okay, do we have sufficient elements? And then you say, where is the weakness in the case? Which element can we attack? And what is the evidence? Where's the weakest bits of evidence? And how can we attack that evidence? But then there's also something called jury appeal, which is that it just isn't right that this person's, I remember we had a case where it was an abandoned boat. And the guy was living on his boat, and his boat got wrecked in a hurricane, and he was trying to put his money, and he became homeless, and his wife died of cancer, and he couldn't afford to move the boat. And then they charge him with abandoning a vessel in the waterway, right? Some crime. And it's like, okay, technically it may be a crime, but it has no jury appeal. When you say, like, this guy is just, his life has been crushed, and you're trying to nail him because he lost his home and his boat, and so that's like, well, that's not legal. That's not legal. Well, you're guilty. You should plead. Well, no, that has jury appeal, and I'm going to argue that to the jury every day. In fact, I'd rather have the jury appeal than some technical argument, because I find that judges as well as jurors hate technicalities, right? But they really want to apply that human element and say, is this right or is this wrong? And that's kind of where the rubber hits the road, is having that people assessment. One other little story sideline is we had an appellate lawyer, because I train all of our appellate lawyers in our office, and this guy came in, and it was somebody who was very high, well, I guess it's the autistic spectrum, and had a very analytical and super knowledgeable, very intelligent, very fast knowledge of the law in a technical way, to the point that it was blew me away. I couldn't believe the kid was so young. I mean, I'm older and I've been doing a lot. He knew this stuff, but he could not see the other side. When he would look at the law, he's like, there's an answer. Here's the answer to the problem. Because you apply it here and it goes click, 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 and here it spits out the problem. Like, okay, well, but you don't, well, articulate the other side. What is the other position? And, it's like, for example, I could articulate both sides with equal ferocity. Maybe I would rather be on one side or the other, or you're just assigned one side or the other. But law is about a lot of gray and a lot of mist. And so, but he couldn't see that, and he was not effective at all, because it was like, that's the way it is, and this is the answer. And then all of a sudden he keeps losing because he's not understanding the weaknesses in his own arguments. So anyway.
I know, and I think that's a dangerous thing, because I know that there are people who no, I'm not gonna pussyfoot around it. We're not gonna do that. I think Kurt is an extremely talented, analytical lawyer. I think he's a fantastic researcher. He has wonderful encyclopedic knowledge and understanding of prior cases. Like the shit that he starts pulling out of nowhere in the middle of discussions, I'm always like, damn, like Kurt remembers all this stuff and he knows it. But I do think Kurt may have a little bit of a, we'll call it I don't want to call it a deficiency, but a hurdle that he has to overcome as a lawyer in all aspects of being a lawyer in regards to that other element of it, because I think he does see things in very A, B, black and white things. That's not a slight, by the way. It's very much a compliment. And he would be a guy who's exceedingly useful on the team. But I don't know that I would want Kurt in front of the jury on a lot of issues for that.
There's different and obviously, I mean, there's a personality conflict between.
You probably don't want me in front of a jury or researching. Like, you probably want me to be the guy who brings clients in.
No, I was just going to say, you're the rainmaker. And the thing is, nobody is perfect at everything. I mean, we're different. We have complementary skill sets. His skill set is not going to be the jury guy, right? He's not going to be the trial lawyer. And I don't think he has that many trials. So, or if any, but I mean, like you say, with the research and the other stuff, I mean, he has his thing, but you can't be all things to all people. I mean,
no. That's the hardest part of being a solo practitioner.
The hard part. Yes.
Yeah. You're like, how do I do all these things when I'm not good at most of them?
But I remember I had a really good friend of mine who passed away. All my good friends are passed away. It's terrible. But
he's left with their bad friends. He's like, all my good friends are passed away. Hi, Nick.
No, he was a great friend, and his name was Mac. And Mac was a trial lawyer in our office, and he was the biggest schmoozer I've ever dealt with. I talk about him in Prepare, actually, and he could just talk the pants out of anybody. He was a pro golfer. He was a PGA golfer, and he would take these prosecutors and say, "Oh, come on, give my guy probation," and he'd drink. Let's have a drink. He was so gregarious, and he could negotiate anything. And I'm like a fighter. I'm scorched earth. I want to fight, litigate, and he'd get these deals. And I hate negotiating. I hate that brown nosing. So the thing is what we do is he would do and I would do all his trials. So it's like, if he couldn't negotiate it and it was fail and it was war, then it was Gosney time. And he'd say, well, I'm going to bring Gosney in, so then Mac would bring me in, and I'd love it, because I just wanted the trial and the battle and the fight and the harsh, the war. That was my domain. It's the courtroom in the trial, but that is not necessarily serving your client. He was serving the client better. The clients like you to fight, but it's good to have both. When you have to go to war, you need the warrior. When you got to negotiate, you need the negotiator. And those are two different people.
Yeah. And you mentioned something just a minute ago that I really want to get to, because it feeds into what I said. And if I said it, it was correct. And so any support for my position is important, Steve.
Okay.
No, you were talking about like jury appeal and these questions where you're like, yeah, I mean, by the letter of the law, you did this thing, but we want to go to the jury and be like, come on, no. I played soccer just in a recreational league, and I was this white guy, and my entire team is these little tiny Peruvian guys, right? They're all like 5'5", running around, but they're like 40. They've been playing their entire lives. They're great, but the captain of the team, the coach or whatever, main guy, the organizer, his name was Alex. And anytime something happens, the ref disagreed with, he just go, come on. Like he didn't speak much English, but he just, come on, like really loud. And that's what you need that element of it to go before the jury. You're like, come on, like this is silly. And this is what I was arguing about on that panel a little bit in favor of Megan as a juror and why juries are important. And it's the point I was getting into before when we were talking about this is that, look, there is a legal analysis and we do have that. But once you get past that pure legality and now you're in the realm of a jury, you have the flexibility to have a jury find something that might not be perfectly legally cognizable. And it doesn't have to be. What you have to do is have a plausible, reasonable outcome from the record to sustain the jury verdict in civil trials. So you go, okay, I'm going to use Johnny Depp as a great example. There is no fucking way on earth, Steve, that the 3 statements that Johnny Depp sued Amber Heard over are worth $10 million.
Okay.
No way. The damage was done before. They all know the damage was done before, but that damage is outside the statute of limitations. They're left with this article. They have to find something. Now, once they got past dismissal and they get into the courtroom, the brilliant thing Johnny Depp's team did, and I commented on this, it's not supposed to be legally sustainable, but we're past law at this point. We're now in that emotional appeal argument. Johnny Depp's lawyers, tied those 3 statements to the prior acts and prior statements of Amber Heard that did the real damage to suggest that those statements effectively resurrected beyond the statute of limitations the original statements. They could never, ever say this. If they said it in court, it's a mistrial. They have to do it over. You cannot make these statements mean those statements. But what you can do if you're crafty and you're right, and this is the right thing to do because it's true, is to take the overall semblance of justice for Johnny Depp required attaching these statements to those acts that destroyed him. Because everybody knows that Amber Heard fucked him over. Everybody knows that what she did is unconscionable and she should definitely have to pay the price. But the law, the pure legal analysis, is not equipped for it. So all they had to do.
But you just nailed it right there. That's how jurors think. It's like if you got enough to get it to the jury, right? Then they make the judgment based on basically equities. So what I mean by that is it's like, okay, we think that this guy's getting screwed. Now, how do we make it right? How do we give him some money? Oh, here's the vessel by which we can deliver the money over here. Then we'll fill that vessel up with the money and bring it over here. The lawyers are hyper technical. Well, here's something that I've always tried to do as a lawyer and as a trial lawyer and as somebody as a human being is to have a broad base of knowledge and to understand. And of course, that speaks the guy who knows nothing about popular culture. But I do like movies and I like music and I like to read and I like to walk and I like to go and travel and be with friends and do things that are outside of the lawyer. Because if all I am is a legal machine who reads law, you are losing half the law or most of the law. The law,
most of it, especially in criminal law.
It's about people. It's about how we govern ourselves. It's about the equities of life and it's about life. And if you aren't living life, then you are not an effective trial lawyer, which is what we're talking about. When we're covering trials, and criminal trials is what I do and what and that is all about people and humanity and the stories and the passions and the dramas. And that's why we need to have connections with humanity. And the worst lawyers I see in criminal law a lot of them are these prosecutors that I really drive me batty, because they're, they go to school and they've gotten A's, and they went to the school and they get the silver spoon, and they've never lived life, and they go out and they give them all this power, and they don't understand people that are living hard life, and blue collar folks who go home and their life isn't as golden as they had. And it's like, have a little understanding of humanity and bring that into the law. That's important.
Of course. And the reason it's important, and this is what I went into this on Friday, but let me just reiterate it here, is not because it's not important because we want to persuade a jury. It's not important because we want to win for our client. I mean, that's why we engage in these things, of course. But the reason it is important is because the jury system is created for that. The jury system is created to allow us to apply the law locally in our community by our peers, even though it doesn't say peers, but by people in our districts, to say, this is how we want the law to work. Bronca and I had a big disagreement a while back over a shooting in Texas. Happened in Arlington or Amarillo or whatever. The guy came up on the guy's porch and threw him off the porch. And then when the guy landed, he raises and shoots. Bronca says, not self-defense, because you cannot show me from the evidence we have that guy was actually moving towards the other guy. And
right, okay.
Like, I get that. And I'm not questioning Bronca's legal analysis, very analytical approach to it. He says, if you can show me that guy's foot moves 1 inch towards the guy before a shot's fired, he's like, it's self-defense all day. Makes sense. But one of the things I said back then, and I still believe it, was, does that community in Texas want the guy who gets thrown off of his own porch by a guy trying to grab his gun? Do they want that guy charged for shooting the guy who's clearly a fucking menace? And the answer was no. Grand jury turned it down. They said, nope, we're not charging this guy. And that makes sense. But that's the juries. We get to choose the world we want to live in by having the people around us be the deciders of our fate. And if the people around us think that marijuana laws are unconstitutional or should not be done, you jury nullify them. They just say, nope, this guy's not guilty. And it's like, we literally caught him eating a plant, like just straight off, like corn on the cob, like a fiend. And they're like, yep, we don't care, not guilty. They can do that. Well, our juries can nullify things.
The argument for jury nullification, and Branca's giving you the cold legal analysis, but then let's just continue on this theme of jury appeal.
Yeah, and I want to point out that Branca's right on his analysis.
Well, he's right technically on the law.
Right, yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's not winnable. So the fact is, here's a defense lawyer thinking, right? So Branca comes in and says, that's not a legal argument. It's not legal self-defense. And that's what he would testify to as an expert. All right. All right, fine. That's what he tells me. I'm the defense attorney. He's advised my client of that. Well, I don't care what you say, Branca. That's your opinion. Can I get self-defense jury instruction in front of the jury? If I can get it in front of the jury, if I can argue it, all right, then the question is, does it have jury appeal? And right. if I got the instruction and I can make the jury argument, then that's what I got. I don't care what his legal analysis is, maybe correct, but it doesn't mean that I can't use it as a weapon in a jury trial and win. I was going to tell you about like when assault. Misdemeanor court is, I will tell you, the best job in all of law. If you want to you want to be a lawyer, and the best
misdemeanor court's the best job.
Misdemeanor public defender, the best job in all of law. And I
don't buy it, but okay.
No, I could go on. I could rip on this for a long time, but let me just tell you about the charge of assault.
I just think the best job in all of law is probably the guy who pays to have Elon Musk's hookers killed. Like, that's probably the best job in all of law. He's like, oh, you're gonna send 40 SpaceLink satellites up? Well, I got 38 in cold storage waiting for a ride. Don't worry about it. That guy's got it made.
Okay, well, second best job in law then. Is a misdemeanor public defender, and that is like assault, because what happens is you pick a jury, and it's like this jury, they come in and they're like, oh, we got a crime, and then the state attorney gets up there and says yes, and then this guy got up, yeah, what happened? And he
I know where you're going.
Stuff like this, right? Yeah, what happened? They're in a bar, And the guy was afraid. And they're like, yeah. Well, that's the crime. He pulled his fist. The guy was afraid. And the people were like, you mean we spent 2 days here because of that? Not guilty. I mean, boy, I'll say people, they do not like misdemeanor assaults.
Dude,
and
so,
it's because of that, because it doesn't have jury appeal. They're like, why are you wasting my time with this stupidity? So and that's like, well, technically it's assault. That's what you get. You get these prosecutors are like, well, I charged it because the person was placed in fear in the analysis, right?
I can do a similar story from the other perspective. So Lady Raggins is on a jury, and it was this really unfortunate case. There's this guy, I think he was like an employee at one of the local high schools, really beloved guy. And he would ride his bike every morning down this stretch of highway on the shoulder. And this truck driver had seen him before, but for whatever reason, like he's driving his truck, he doesn't see the guy, and he just runs him over and kills him. And like, he was not charged with criminal vehicular homicide. He was not charged with manslaughter or anything, because they did determine that it was really like dimly lit that morning. I don't know what the whole circumstance was, but they determined straight out that this was a pure accident as far as the actual striking of the guy goes. But he was charged with this crime, which is failure to provide adequate space when passing a bicyclist on a roadway. Because you have to provide, like, I think it's 2 meters of space, right? While you're passing a cyclist, so you don't hit him. Pretty obvious reason. And they get into the jury room. I think she was the foreman, even, because of course. And she's like, okay, well, like, this seems obvious. And they're like, well, no. And she's like, wait, what? Like, clearly she did not give the guy space. When he passed him, he ran him over. He's dead because he did not give him 6 feet of space. This seems pretty straightforward. And these people in the jury room were like, but he wasn't intending to pass him because he didn't see him. So what does the law mean? Does it mean, like, when passing is an active action, he needed to see him and decide to pass him to then be required to give him space? She's like, no. The question is, was this man 6 feet away, or were his tires running over the guy's spine? The answer was the second one. Obviously, he's dead. But it took these people a long time because they had a problem with it. They're like, this guy had no idea he was there. Now, this is a misdemeanor. The fine's like $200. Like, if you get out of killing someone and it's $200 fine, no jail time, you have done it right. I want to do that. There is a list of people I would pay $200 of a fine to have killed.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, let's just, I'll advise you to remain silent on that going forward. But on that very thing, I have.
Let me tell you their names, Steve, and their addresses and birthdays.
I'm not careful. You're going against advice of counsel. No, I've dealt with these cases on the other side about the jury appeal. It's probably more common, and this is the sad thing, about people getting convicted, what I call convicted on a technicality. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of jury appeal on the state side, but the evidence against our client is weak. The culpability, the liability for our client is really weak. But because they can really, like, there's a victim, there's a dead person, right?
Yeah.
And that dead person was a valedictorian, or they're a baby, or they're some, innocent person, and they're dead, and somebody's got to pay. And we're going to parade the victim's father, or, their family, and they're going to cry in the stand and all that. And all these emotions get charged up, and the jury gets angry. And then the prosecutor points over at the defense table, and people are riled up and they want blood. But it's like, wait a second, there's big problems with the state case. There's reasonable doubt, there's lying witnesses, there's causation issues, whatever the defenses are. But they don't want to hear it because they're so charged up by the emotions injected into the case, and they get convicted. And that's where we talk about, like, even a good defense case is 50-50, because the state plays into those emotions a lot too. And a lot of times we're leaning against that in a defense, saying, trying to do the analysis, and the individual saying, well, according to this technicality, and the jury's just like, forget that. 50% of the time they convict anyway. And so it's a mistake, a major mistake, for a trial lawyer to ever ignore the human element in a case. That is a major part of law that is, it's hard. It's a hard portion. It's not easily studied in a textbook.
Yeah, it's and I don't think it's teachable, frankly.
Maybe, I don't
I think
know.
I think it's learnable. I think you can learn through experience. I just don't think there's a course you can sit in. How's that? I don't think there's a class you can sit in to learn these things. I think you can observe someone do it, and you can absorb what they do. I think you can, and people may not know this about me, for example, but I was not always this way. I was not
Straight?
always, no, definitely not. I was not always this broken.
Oh,
I used to be very much more introverted, right? And I still, on Myers-Briggs, I fall 51% extrovert, 49% introvert because I'm comfortable in either environment.
mhm.
I can sit down and read a book for hours. I can watch a TV show by myself. I can paint minis. I can play video games. I'm good. I don't need to recharge by being in a crowd. But when I go into a crowd, I'm not exhausted. I'm not tired. I'm not drained from it. I can be in a crowd for days. Lady Rackets kind of hates it because if I go to Las Vegas, people are always like, oh, don't go to Vegas more than 3 days or 4 days or whatever. Like I could spend a year there going out every night and having a blast because I'm fully energized by people. But if I also go to the mountains by myself, I'm great. Like I'm happy. But
Interesting.
I wasn't always that way. I wasn't always a person who could go out and engage people. I had to learn extroversion. I had to learn it by necessity because if you want to find a person, if you want to find another, it's a lot easier when you're out amongst other people. And so somewhere between my last 2 years of high school and my first 2 years of college, I can't define a specific spot, but that was this massive transition towards, no, I need to stop just sitting around playing video games by myself, even though I like them. I need to learn how to go interact with people. There's not a class you can take that teaches you that. You have to hang around people who are extroverts. You have to learn how they do it. You have to apply your own successes and failures with discussing things with other people or engaging in conversations. One of the things that I do really well that I've noticed a lot of other extroverts do is I maintain this useless level of base knowledge of a billion subjects so that when I walk up to a group of people, I listen for about 30 seconds and I know something about what someone has said. And then I can drop that in. And then that is them allowing me now to participate in the conversation. Even if I don't know as much as them, like I can walk up to a group of mechanics, listen for something I understand, say it. And I don't know anything about mechanics or being a mechanic for a car, but I can do this thing. I can express enough knowledge to talk, but a willingness to learn and listen. And then I'm in the conversation. I can do that on just about any subject on earth. But I had to learn that. You have to learn that thing, and there's no class that can teach it. You just have to learn it by observing people who do.
A couple reflections on that, and that's interesting. First of all, I think that those abilities, I've met you a couple times, and I know you well enough to know that you do have a very good people sense in that you know how to interact and socialize, and that's the type of person that will have jury appeal. That you would be a good trial lawyer because you know how to connect to people and to make the argument. I will also say that humility is a very, very important quality, and it's an underrated quality. And I talk about this, in a lot of things I do, but it's important for a lawyer because you need to know where you are weak. And in our office, for example, like I am not a good people person, and I am on the bottom, I'd say probably bottom quartile of people reading. I'm really not good at that. And I just miss it. Like I would say I'm very bad at normal jury selection. And so whenever I do a jury trial, I always get a second chair, somebody who I think is a very good people person, a good people reader, and I let them do the jury selection for me because I'm good at the technical aspects of evidence presentation, opening, closings, laying out evidence, objecting, all of those things, and jury instructions. But when it comes to picking a jury, I'm not good at that. And I recognize that weakness, just like my friend Mac, who was good at negotiating, I hand off that negotiation to him.
Of course.
And because I know that that's not my strength. And so being humble enough to say, I'm not the God's gift to the law and I'm great, all Jerry Spence and everybody else, right? You've got to go into it and try to cover your weakness. Now you can learn like in death penalty jury. I'm trained in death penalty jury selection. And that is a very technical.
Well, you were studying art. I was training in death penalty jury selection.
No. Well, I'm this. I don't know.
This jury has been folded 1,000 times in a Japanese forge
yeah,
with a bellows operated by the souls of my ancestors.
Rock, right? No,
I love you so much. You have no idea.
No, it's
one of my favorite people on earth.
I'm just trying to share the wealth here. But there's a technical way to pick a jury in a death case. It's very precise and very well, and it's something that you can learn and you train and you practice. When we do a death penalty case, we will do faux jury selections for months. Like every Friday, we will book out an afternoon, and we'll do that for months. Every Friday for like 2 or 3 months before we pick, and then we will interview those jurors and find out which arguments are the best arguments emotionally for the jury, which ones are persuasive and which ones are not. And that requires listening, not like, oh, I think I know what the right answer is. No, you listen to those people because those are they don't know anything about your case. You're so buried in it. You know all these details and all this law, but you're missing the forest for the trees. Open your ears and listen to what people say.
When I said earlier that I would be the guy to bring people in, it's that I might actually be a very good trial lawyer, but without I don't want to say that because I haven't done it, right? Like I have not done jury trials. I've done bench trials and been very successful, but I've not done jury trials, haven't needed to. So I don't want to oversell. Like I'd be good at this. I might be, I might not be, but yeah, it is an interesting thing. Quickly assessing and knowing the people you're around is something. First of all, every conservative should learn this skill very fast. And let me apply it in a different way. I talk to so many guys, or I see so many guys in chat, and they talk about their particular struggles with the opposite gender and finding someone and all of that stuff. And I've met some of y'all. I love you all very much. But my biggest advice to many people who have trouble with the opposite gender is the first thing you need to stop doing is once you get into that conversation, once you get past that first, hey, I'm so-and-so, who are you? You cannot talk about how much you love Trump or Alex Jones or guns or like freedom or whatever. Like you have to understand that that is a niche thing that is not in there. And I see so many guys who it has become their personality, and the internet allows and enables that to be a desirable and fun personality. And it's but not when you're talking to someone else. And that's the thing. As a conservative guy, I'm not slamming you guys. I'm trying to help you. As a conservative guy or a libertarian guy or whatever right-leaning person, you need to understand how important it is to walk up and read a group of people and figure out when you have permission to be you. And it may take a while to have that permission, even in a group of people just like you, because they're on guard as well. I tend to be able to figure that out really, really quick, Steve. Those are the things that's
a talent. And, and this is a skill. And I do think it is innate. I think there's my son is great at reading people. He's on the top tier of people. I mean, he really can read. I admit that I'm blind on that, and I continually fail in that regards, but I have a philosophy that I apply, and I keep beating my head against the wall because I give people the benefit of the doubt. But we all have our lives we're given. None of us are perfect. There's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way. You have to be true to yourself. I don't know what else to say, but to ignore the people side of law is a big mistake, and especially trials. I mean, when we're talking trials, anything to do with juries, it is so important. That is a very important part of it, because the jury is there. They're the deciders. They're the fact.
Yeah. No, it's true. But the point I want to reiterate one more time, since Andrew isn't here and I get to slap this down on the table,
slap him around.
Is that it is
my brother, fellow Florida man.
It is not just juries, and people get so wrapped up in that. They're like, "Well, no, just juries." Andrew is an attorney who has done tons of commercial representation at very high levels. That's why he's so fucking good at talking about Disney. He's talked about representing not Disney, but companies akin to Disney and with interests around the Disney sort of property disputes and stuff like that. You can infer who those might be, but you won't know who they are. But Disney has all this. He's so great at it because that's where he has worked, and everyone should listen to him on that. But
there's nobody else that comments on Disney that you should listen to. He is the guy.
Really, yeah, he is the guy. He knows it back and forth. And the crazy thing is, what people don't understand about legal analysis on YouTube is that Andrew will give the best advice on that Disney stuff, the best understanding of it, and he may still be wrong because that's how law works. You can be the best guy in the world on a subject, but there's so much variability in law. There's politics that get involved. There's people that get involved. There's personalities and ideas and community standards. All of that stuff gets involved, and it muddies up the practicality, even if you have the basics down. But that being said, Andrew is great at that stuff. That's what he does. But you cannot tell me that when Andrew is advising his clients in that field, that he's giving a purely objective analysis. His clients want to move into a position akin to Disney, or his clients when he worked there. I don't think he does now. They wanted to move to be like Disney, or they wanted to move to make Disney brought down to their level so they can compete. His advice is, of course, going to consider the motivations of his client as he's doing that. And I don't think he was intentionally being dishonest about that. I think he was saying, no, I provide this cold legal analysis, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, but also you know what your client is looking for. And I'm not saying you give your client what they want. Sometimes you have to give the opposite. Sometimes your client is irrational. Sometimes your client is unreasonable. And you have to provide the cold analysis, but tailored in a way that understands your client's biases and your client's dreams and goals, and goes, you're going to have to do it this way, either because that's the only way you get what you want, or because I recognize that you'll never get what you want, and I need to teach you how to act properly. And those are both valid things that you have to do for your client.
Well, you're expanding the point that we're making about juries and about I'm looking at it from a trial.
I'm not talking about juries. That was specifically the thing.
But you're expanding the point, and that is that
yes,
the human element, not only juries, but you also have clients you're talking to that you're trying to direct. You also have judges who are human beings, and I can opine about judges and their base motives all day.
No, judges are perfect analytical machines, as they tell us all the time, Steve, right? Like they can hear inadmissible evidence and they'll be just fine because they're judges and they can properly disregard it. They won't be influenced by that. What are you talking about?
I try to predict when I get a written legal decision out of our appellate court. And I will just say, I have a sneaking suspicion that media coverage of the case oftentimes generates a written opinion. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you the judges are paying attention to what's going on. They want to justify themselves. They want to look good in the media eyes, or they want to opine on a case that's out there. They want to look good for the other lawyers or legal community. They're human beings. And I mean, this is the problem with any kind of system of government. When we create a system of government and it's like, well, this is the perfect system. There's no perfect system because any system is populated by broken human beings.
Yep.
You have to go with
laws. Sorry, go ahead.
You have the best system because people, and we will always fail at the ideal. What is the best system? I think the system is populated by humans, and to divorce it, to think it's an analytical exercise, there is that element, but there's an art. It's like art, it's music. You can't say objectively this song is better than this song. You can analyze it, and it's very technical. And to make classical music, you have to be well trained. But ultimately, it's a matter of taste. It's a matter of subjectivity.
Right, and it's a matter of taste when you kill someone, like ask Jeffrey Dahmer.
Matt Self is okay. Yes, he always with the jokes, always the jokester.
Of course, jokes, because levity is the key. Levity is the key to the door of how do I put this?
Well, that's what your Friday stream. I mean, people forgot to lighten up.
Oh my God, they got so mad. And Andrew's like, he's like, Nick's just watching the Super Chats roll in. First of all, it was a pretty good Super Chat stream, but not like a crazy good one. But I'm just sitting there like, this is what I love. Like, these people have so much invested in what they're saying that they're willing to, in public, make asses of themselves. And I'm dying at it. I'm like, why are you so mad? Like, you have nothing to say. Like, you can't do anything to this jury. You can't do anything to this judge. You can't do anything to these people. And you're out here. You're like, fuck you. Shut your mouth. People, you don't know shit. Goddamn. You fucking. And I'm like, guys, like, we're just six assholes with opinions. Like, we're shitting them out left and right. Like, come on, relax. It's fine, but that is what people want to see, though. They want that passion, and that's a perfect case to ignite it, right? Like, because it's you do have this very technical legal aspect of what med mal is, and I think med malpractice is up on the chopping block based on what I understand on appeal. Doesn't mean the entire verdict is, just that part of it. Certainly up on the chopping block. I also think the induced suicide. Induced suicide is such a crazy, novel area of law with no really good guidance on it, and huge problems and caveats. Say, how does one convince someone else to put a gun in their mouth and pull the trigger? And what do you have to do, Steve? What do you have to say to make this go to this? Because
but you remember the girl that was prosecuted who had the boyfriend and so this is a
I know it can be done.
It's a difficult area, and I don't know. Can we convert that into some liability for damages? Because obviously, this is a case with a lot of jury appeal. Okay, here's another, going back to our Friday stream and connecting it all together. That case, and I've told, when I went on, Megan Fox covered that whole thing front to back. She watched the whole trial every day for like a month. So, you should not get criticized for having her on, because she knows the facts. She knows what well.
That's why I brought her on.
Right.
I brought her and Rob on because they both watched so much of that trial. I was like, I want both of them on. I've been talking to Megan behind the scenes. She's like, you need to cover this. Come join my show. Like, and I was like,
trial at 10. When do you say a month? I'm like, oh my God.
I was like, I would love to really, like, my schedule has been, no way could I do it. But anyway, like, that's why I brought her on, because I know she knows the case. I know Rob knows the case, and I thought we could have a really good discussion. I think we did, though. I do think we had a really good discussion. Everybody's focusing on this like 5-10 minutes of tension, but really, like, the discussion throughout the night was great.
Well, but the thing is that I was saying up front to this case when because I went on her first stream and her last stream, and I missed all the middle stuff. But when I went on the first time, I'm like, I don't understand. When she laid out what the facts were, I don't understand why the defense team did not just admit liability on a number of factors and then go to the damages element, because it seems to me that there's a lot of jury appeal to that case. And then when I heard it at the end, I'm like, boy, there is a hell of a lot of jury appeal. And that's a case that's where we're talking. Technically, there might be appellate issues. There might be able to knock out a couple million here, a couple million there on counts. But when it comes down to the heart, the jury, who's the one writing out the numbers, they're like saying, to hell with you, hospital, right?
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, again, from that analytical outlook, you can say, I can see where an appeals court might overturn this on appeals. But appeals courts don't like overturning jury decisions. They really don't. And the standard is very, very high. There has to be the standard to overturn a jury verdict in both civil and criminal law has to be that no reasonable jury could possibly come to the conclusion that this jury did. Not that it is a reasonable conclusion. Not that a reasonable jury came to a 51% standard that we have at the district court. Not that a jury, you know, they couldn't possibly come to it. It doesn't have to be anything other than 0.01% of people look at this set of facts and go, yeah, I can see this outcome. Boom, jury's done it. So the way you overturn a jury verdict on appeal in civil trial is simple. You have to show that one of the elements of a claim does not have any potential factual basis at all. And going back to Johnny Depp, even though I believe that Johnny Depp's ultimate outcome is legally unsustainable at an academic level, could any jury at all determine that the statements made did cause this level of damage? Of course they could. And here's why. The statements were made by Amber Heard. They were false. She knew they were false, and she said them for the purposes of causing Johnny Depp damage, and it did damage. Johnny Depp's damages are way more than 10 million all around. So how do you then pare it down to just 10 million when he's lost hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars? Of course, a reasonable jury can conclude that. But I think on the raw law, if you didn't have any, and this is the way you're supposed to look at it, if there are no prior actions and no prior statements and no subsequent actions and no subsequent statements, just these three statements from this one article, there's no way that that cost Johnny Depp $10 million. There just isn't. But a jury can conclude that. And the reason we allow a jury to conclude that is because we know that those prior acts that didn't get brought into this trial because of statute of limitations and some other crazy stuff of other pending trials, we know that there's a practicality and reality to the human condition that law, like you agreed to earlier, is not always equipped to deal with, to enact justice. And the ultimate goal of our system is to enact justice, not to apply law. And people forget that. And that's why so many people out there approach it like an engineer. And they're like, well, the wrench on the bolt does not turn at 48 pounds of torque and produce this outcome. It's like, well, no, because we're not worried about the number of, or the amount of torque that's applied to a bolt. We're worried about the machine working at the end of the day. The machine working is justice, not your fact set. And and until people learn that and accept that, you're gonna have crazy arguments like we had here on Friday.
Yeah, and it's almost like high school when we used to argue. I remember when I was in high school, maybe even middle school, we used to have arguments about like, who's the best guitar player, right? And then I'd say, well, Jimmy Page, right? And then I said, no, Eddie Van Halen, because he's faster, right? And it's like, okay, well, he's faster. Well, no, but Yngwie Malmsteen is faster than Eddie Van Halen, right? And then you'd say, yeah, well, Michelangelo Batillo, he's the fastest of all. So he must, if he's the fastest, he must be the best guitar player, right? Well, and we could argue about all the technicalities about who's the better guitar player. And in by my definitions, I'm right. But we're ultimately arguing about technicalities when you're saying, as a musical thing, well, the fastest guitar player is the best musician or makes the best music necessarily. Is that even congruent?
We all know the answer to the best guitar player is Herman Lee.
No, it's Jimmy Page, but we can
Herman Lee.
disagree.
Do you know who Herman Lee is?
I don't even know Herman Lee.
Dude, you gotta watch him.
I know, you're Dragon Force. Yeah, okay.
That guy's good though.
Yeah, there's a good example of shredding. He's a guy. I like him as a guy, but I'm not that kind of music. That's not my thing. How about, have you ever heard Pat Metheny? Now, Pat Metheny.
Dude, I don't know the names of any other guitarist than Herman Lee.
I
had to look him up too. I had to look him up, Steve. No, I do want to say something. I want to respond to Sporkio in the chat over on Rumble. He says, Nick, torque wrenches exist. Perfect. Thank you. He said torque wrenches exist, Nick. Bad analogy. I love you so much for being that engineer. But here's how I know. You know how I know torque wrenches exist? Do you guys want to know the actual reason that me, a mechanical incompetent, knows why a torque wrench exists? Because, and Steve, I know you know this from the exact same way. Because Marissa Tomei described a torque wrench to Joe Pesci in My Cousin Vinny, and Marissa Tomei describing a torque wrench is one of the sexiest things that has ever happened involving torque wrenches.
Well, that's why you're cool and I'm not, because I actually own a torque wrench right over here, and it's because I have an AR-15, and you have to have a certain pressure in order to build your AR-15, and you have a torque wrench that has a dial on it. You can do the actual torque on it. Here, check this out. This is a great guitar player. Highly recommended, you guys, if you want a jazz shredder.
What's the name? Matteo
Mancuso.
I can't read. I can't read cursive because I went to public school in the 90s, and you went to public school in the 40s.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy, Matteo Mancuso. I'm trying to educate your audience with some great jazz.
It was funny. It was funny.
You got to drag me through the mud by insulting my ageisness. Make a martini. Yeah, you want to make me a martini. Why is your voice kind of gravelly? Are you sick?
No, Friday. So Friday, this usually happens to me when I get very little sleep one day. Thursday night to Friday morning, I got 90 minutes of sleep total. And then I had to get up and do some stuff. Normally I get a very short amount of sleep. I have to run one of my kids somewhere, and then I come back and I go back to sleep, and I sleep a full night. That day I did not get to, because we had a bunch of stuff to do. So normally when I lose my voice is because of that. Now I thought it would be back by now, but it is not. So I don't know if I'm subsequently sick. I don't have a temperature or anything. I took some meds.
How do you feel?
I was exhausted today, but that's not new. I don't have a temp. I don't have any symptoms. I'm not I coughed a little bit, but I'm not sneezing. I don't have a runny nose. I'm not dying. Hopefully,
if you had a runny nose, that would be a big problem.
I know. Yeah, of course. That's what happens when that Chinese dam breaks.
Now we're diverting. We're going off the rails.
So
did I tell you about my latest book?
You did not, but here's what I'm going to tell you to do. I'm going to tell you to tell the chat about your latest book, which you did, but I'm lying. But so that you can do this, I'm going to go to the bathroom. When we come back, we're going to do super chats. I'm going to flip to Rumble. You're, of course, I don't want to keep you forever, but you're welcome to stay as long as you want, because I do want to talk about Supreme Court ethics and all of that stuff that I have.
Oh, yeah. I have not heard about. I'd love to reflect on that. Are you going to take a break?
I'm just going to go pee real quick. I'll be right back. But you talk about your book right now while I go pee. I'll be right back. And oh, wait, that's not the right one. Hold on. Let me give you the blessing of Muhammad. That's God. Henry Cavill in his short arms.
Oh, no.
No, we're here. Tell us about the book, Stephen. Tell us about the book. Can you buy it in a Gaza children's bookstore?
No, you cannot.
Wait, what? What is the problem? Gaza children's bookstore, you have Harry Potter. You have the lightning guy, the Percy Jackson.
What happened to this show, Nick?
We have warriors.
It's a bunch of cats. Be a good show. Now,
Stephen, it's a bunch of cats, and then right next to that we have RPGs. We have RPGs aimed into Jerusalem. Oh wait, you don't want me to be Muhammad? Okay, that's Anna Kasparian, by the way, as Muhammad. No, okay, I got one better. There we go. All right, you do your, don't worry about it. You do your book thing. I'll be right back. I got to pee. And then when we get back, we'll do more.
I don't know what's going on. Oh, look, Sherry's got, oh boy, that's a good question. We'll address that one when we come back, Sherry. Okay. But let me tell you about Brucey, the one-eyed wonder dog, because you all have Christmas coming up, and I'm sure you have children and families that are around. And Brucey, the one-eyed wonder dog is my children's book that I just came out. It's at stevegossi.com. You can order it right now. And let me just tell you a little bit about it. Every dog has a story. Brucey found himself alone on the street. His eye hurt. Who would help? Brucey must find his way through darkness and fear. He wonders if his disability would make him unwanted. But through the love of a family, he finds that even though he's imperfect, he has purpose. Story of One-Eyed Wonder Dog. It's a book that I've gotten. It's full color, and it's a story of the Serenity Prayer integrated with the story of the true story of my dog Bruce, who here this is one of the pages. Many of the dogs barked and jumped, trying to draw the attention of the family. He could not compete with their energy. Gazed down sadly. Maybe I'll get overlooked, so I'm not as strong and loud as the others, and I only have one eye. Who would want a one-eyed dog? So the book is about all of us are imperfect, right? We're all humble, and we have our imperfections, and especially little kids. Little kids are imperfect, and they know that they're inadequate and they're incapable. And they think, who would love me? I throw temper tantrum, throw my food, and have my problems, right? But it does. What we find is that we're all imperfect, but we're there, and it doesn't limit who we are. It doesn't limit our purpose. We can still give and receive love. So it's a great book for Christmas. In fact, there's even a little Christmas message here in this part, which is the bottom, when Brucey's really in the worst part, when he's on the street alone, but there's a little Bethlehem star and there's hope. So it's a story. It's a religious story, but it's not necessarily like hit you over the head religious. It also has on the back of it, it has the full serenity prayer put right there. So if you go to stevegosney.com, you're going to get gifts for your loved children in your family. And my objective here is they're all hardcover. They're 11 by 8.5, so it's a big book, and it's meant to be read to your child, so that all these layouts like that. And you're going to get things for Christmas. Why not get Brucey in a life? My objective, I always loved getting read to when I was a little kid. I'd have my mom would sit next to me, and then we'd have a big pile of books that were that are family reading books, right? Yes, it's a happy story at the end. It's a see, like here he finds his purpose. See there? Look at there. Look, there's Brucey. And actually, I do a full reading. If you want to go to stevegosney.com, I read the book front to back and show you the pictures. And there's a video. You can see the video on the Brucey webpage where you can get it. It's only available from me, no place else. And I made it it's been a lot of you guys that supported it. I know there's a lot of folks in the chat and everything that have supported this, including Patrick Finnegan, Let's Go Brandon, Aussie Overlord, Steph the Alter Nerd, and Jeff from Legal Vices were the mains, and then all the Give, Send, Go supporters. So thank you very much. Anyways, this is a great Christmas gift for your children. And the idea is that you could have this book, see that cute little, you can have this book for your kids and put it in the box. And then when the next generation, like we taught my son with all the books that I was taught with, and they were all the best hardcovers, like Disney books. It's funny. And then what we did is we bring them out and then put them back on the shelf. And then, of course, the next generation comes along. You pull that box of children's books down, and you read them again. And it's something you can share. So I hope you like it. So anyway, that's Bruce. And of course, all the other books. I don't know how many. I haven't been on in a while, so I've got The Summer Friend, which is also available. Surfing Music and Growing Up in Ormond Beach, Florida. And there's the serious stuff like death penalty debates, net positive or net negative. If you want to know about all the sides, because I do death penalty appeals and have been involved with the Florida's death penalty for quite a long time. And it gives me a whole thing. And then, of course, like you said, forward by Nick Rekieta, which is Prepare, the Handbook for Individual Freedom, forward by Nick Rekieta. Look at that. And actually, the new ones, look here, I've got a new cover. You see the cover is different? See the poster back here?
Yeah, yeah.
See, I just had to order a new box. I've only got 2 of these left. And so I have a new box coming in of Prepares. And Nick did the forward. And you can see Nick reading the forward on my channel, stevegosney.com. It's still up there. I haven't kicked you off just yet.
Wait, did I read it and recorded it?
I stole it off your channel.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
But you gave me oral permission to do so.
Well, if there's anything I do, it's give people oral permission to do things.
You're good at giving oral, I know.
I actually didn't go anywhere. That was just a test. I sat here the whole time and listened to everything you said.
Well, you should do that. You should listen to me at all times.
Very good. Okay, so here's what I got to do, guys. We gotta wrap up the YouTube show, but first, there is something that has to be done. There is a thing out there that must be engaged and encountered in the only way that I know how, and that is fieldofgreens.com, the sponsor for this show. Guys, who eats vegetables? Gays eat vegetables. Are you gay? No. So how do you get vegetables into your diet without eating them like a gay? You grind them up into powder like a man, and you put it into a drink that is manly, like liquor, and then you drink that instead. That is the least gay way to consume vegetables ever. What are you going to shove in your mouth? A cucumber, a zucchini, a carrot, a parsnip? Guess what? There's a name for you. It's called gay. Don't do that. What you do is you get a powder and you eat it as if you are Keith Richards. Just eat that powder. Or maybe you mix it into a drink as if you're Bill Cosby. Powder in drinks works wonders for your health. Just ask old Bill or ask Keith Richards. Both of these men have extensive experience with powders and various drinks, and Field of Greens is here for you. Guys, I love them. I am desperately trying. I hate doing these ads without actually drinking Field of Greens on stream, but I just am out of it, and I'm trying to get more to my house. But they are, of course, sponsoring the show. I'm a big fan of them. The reason I'm out of all of it is because I actually literally, legitimately, and unironically like it. And I do not do ads for stuff that I don't like. And I also don't do ads if they make me say nice stuff about them. And I also don't do ads where they won't let me suggest that Bill Cosby would have had a lot of success using the ads for his own personal gains. Why do you think Harvey Weinstein is, reviled and defeated forever, and Bill Cosby's not? Bill Cosby, Field of Greens. Harvey Weinstein, rape.
Well, can I say, who's a real man is Jason, because Jason bought Brucey. See, so thank you, Jason. And I'll say, and yes, somebody said if I sell 5 books, I will drink a sidecar, because people are always. Somebody was saying over here, if you really want to see me drink a sidecar, which is, I don't know why people pay me to drink. I don't,
because it's funny every single time.
Why is that funny? I don't get it. I guess.
So, Steve, you have this. I don't want to call it a veneer, because you're not. People don't understand this about you. They think that you have like this veneer of propriety or whatever. I'm like, no. Steve is a defense attorney who has to see the worst of humanity, and he has to defend the worst of humanity sometimes, not all the time, but the worst of humanity sometimes in their worst conditions, to protect the rights of everybody else. And further, Steve is a truly devout and devoted man of faith, which means that he has to not only do all of that, but he advocates very bravely, staunchly, and wisely against the state's monopoly on force in a place where it'd be just very popular to argue the opposite. He does so because he's a man of character, conviction, and a belief that though society may not ever completely, has no duty to forgive someone for their transgressions, that God is the forgiver, not society. However, that society truncating life is a risk that a person may not have the opportunity to make amends for their transgressions. And as a man of compassion and faith, Steve is a guy who wants to give everyone every opportunity to right the wrongs in their lives, to prepare for the next one. And I cannot imagine a more admirable man of character to do that. The thing is, when he drinks a sidecar, he gets funnier.
Well, I don't know, because you're the receiving end of that, but thank you. That was very kind. I don't know, man. Maybe I need to clip this and put this on my thing, but yeah,
we got the joke at the end, but people
do misunderstand me, and it's because, and I mean, it's, I'm not a simple guy. Okay. So understand that people think, I mean, if you think that I'm naive, that's a mistake. All right. I've been through a lot. I'm 56, 57.
I don't know how old you are.
I don't even know. I'm old, but I'm also, I've been through a lot. I've been through darkness, and I deal with very dark subjects. And so, one of the reasons I don't get offended, I mean, like, Nick, you're a good guy, and people like to bust on you all the time, and you're actually a very good sport about it. But
I only like when certain colored people bust on me.
Yeah,
that's a joke.
But the thing is that words don't offend me generally, because the stuff that I have to deal with every day is like the most offensive stuff that you could ever imagine, right? And so that's like, I see people get upset about stupid stuff. I'm like, you're getting upset about that? Why don't you come into my world and see what to get up? I'll give you got some want to be upset about something. Come into my world and I'll get you upset, right? But you have to insulate yourself from that evil. And I found faith provides a armor of God. It's through Ephesians to journey through that evil and come out the other side unsoiled.
There's just a lot of body parts that are still left exposed if you put it on the full armor in Ephesians, because they weren't very good at armor back then. But no, the rest of it,
possible. It's possible where the darkness can stick.
There's like a breastplate and a belt and like some shin guards. There's not a girdle.
A girdle, right?
There's not a gorget. Like, you got to cover the neck, man.
Well, anyways, regardless of the analogy, I'll just say that it's a difficult. So if you want to see me, I guess the whole point of this is, if you want to see me drink a sidecar, then buy 4 more books, because Jason already did it and he's outshining everybody in your chat. We'll have to do this some other time when people are more in the mood. I just came on in a lark, and I always.
Dude, I always love having you on.
Like, my wife went to bed. She's like going to bed early at 9 o'clock. And usually, like, I'm going to bed first. She's really tired. And I'm like, why are you going to bed? I'm like, up. So we're like out of sync right now. And I'm like, I'll just go play on the chat. And I was on Legal Mindset. Now here I am over on Nick's. Like, what a life I got. Isn't it cool?
Yeah, sometimes that's the way it goes. And it's great. But that's the reason people are always like, oh, why don't you have these people on? I'm like, guys, you have to realize how late my show is for normal humans. Like, it's just not possible most of the time to get people on. I was talking to Ty this weekend though, and he's like, hey man, why, he didn't ask why I don't have him on the show. He's like, I would love to come on the show more. I've been kind of busy, so I haven't been talking to you as much, but I always have fun. I was like, Ty, I don't invite you on the show because I know you wake up in the morning and work like a human. And he's like, oh, don't even worry about that. Let's do more. And I was like, yeah, I love having you on. It's not like I just feel bad imposing. He's like, let's figure it out. So I always love when my friends can come on, but I run a late night show, and outside of those rare times where I do get to do daytime streams and cover trials and stuff like that, a lot of people, like, I don't get to interact with Bronca nearly as much as I would want to, but c'est la vie. That's how life goes. So I'm really glad you were up tonight. I invited you on. I was like, oh, no way Steve comes on. Then you come on, you're like, yeah, my wife's in bed and I'm awake. I'm like, yeah, buddy.
I'm excited because I'm going on vacation soon. So I'm gonna have a meet and greet in Charleston, West Virginia on November 20th. So if you
you're gonna sing Country Roads,
take me home. I love West Virginia. Like you talk.
Do you like John Denver?
I kind of like John Denver.
Why did the guy named after Colorado get to sing a song about West Virginia?
The ironies. I don't know this. Well, another thing is he talks about Shenandoah Valley. The Shenandoah Valley is actually in Virginia, not West Virginia.
Maybe it was the other West Virginia that he was thinking about, the one he wanted from the Civil War. Wait, West Virginia was the one that joined the Union side, right?
Yes, right.
Okay, so that wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be.
No,
John Denver's a racist.
I don't know. It's hard to make Civil War jokes, isn't it? I mean,
it's very easy to make Civil War jokes, Steve. What are you talking about?
I don't know what I'm talking about. What are we talking about? What's the topic for tonight? What were we supposed to talk about?
I was going to talk about Supreme Court ethics rules, and now you're like, it's hard to make Civil War jokes. And I'm like,
okay, well, let's talk about Supreme Court ethics rules.
We gotta get to Rumble. Hold on. We got to get to Rumble. Here we go. Let me read the super chats on YouTube. We'll get to Rumble.
Rumble, you're saying Okay.
Yeah, the Iceman. Then we'll make Civil War jokes. The Iceman says, "Good to see Steve. Steve really enjoyed you on Friday on Hunley's show. A little frustrated. Your argument at the end was cut off on the playback. Could you all revisit that argument with New York and Big Tech? I know it's late for Steve. Maybe on Rumble we'll do that. But also, you had a disagreement with Nate. Was that on Hunley's show? Someone's asking me to ask Steve about his disagreement with Nate, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is.
That sounds like a good topic for Rumble.
Okay, we'll do that in a minute. Clearly racism is involved. Sherry Lawlessness says, need general advice. My son invoked right to a speedy trial. It took almost 2 years to get to. Judge denied the motion to dismiss for the Sixth Amendment violation, ended in a hung jury. Well, you always want a hung jury because embarrassing length juries are bad. Motion to dismiss made again. Trial is now set another year out. So the right to a speedy trial is not as simple as it comes across.
Holy cow. Actually, this Wednesday, that means what day? That's tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's Tuesday officially.
Today is Tuesday. We're actually in Tuesday. Tomorrow night, I teach my criminal procedure class for Andrew Branca, American law courses. And Wednesday night's topic is going to be speedy trial. And I am going to talk about speedy trial. And it's a full 2-hour class session to fully understand the complexities of speedy trial. But I can sum it up in probably a couple sentences, typical lawyer, briefly, Your Honor. And that is, there really is no speedy trial, right? It's an illusion.
Yeah.
And it has been so eroded by exceptions and vagaries that it's practically impossible to get anything dismissed for speedy trial. However, it is a tool the defense can use to force the state to try your case. But other than that, our constitutional rights have been so eroded by over time that it is almost.
The speedy trial one is such a problem. There are, first of all, it's so easy to forfeit your right to speedy trial. Most criminal defendants do it right away. And a lot of them do it before their lawyer's even present. Judge's like, by the way, you mind if we just push this out like 6 months? The guy's like, yeah, I want to be out of jail for 6 months. That sounds great. So, because they know they did the thing a lot of times, so they agree to it, and they're like, yeah, 6 more months out is better. But there are cases in Minnesota, dude. If you in 2019 or 2020 when COVID hit, if you had a case, a drug case in Minnesota, and you invoked your right to speedy trial, you were going to win that fucking thing not after COVID hit, because COVID created the Supreme Court of almost every state was like, oh yeah, by the way, the right to speedy trial is completely unimportant.
Right. Well, but okay, how much of this do you really want to know? Because there's federal constitutional speedy trial, which is there's a case called Barker v. Wingo, which is a 1972 U.S. Supreme Court case that establishes the factors that must be considered in order surrounding speedy trial. But that's the minimum federal guarantee. Now, I'm a Florida lawyer, so I'll speak from Florida. Then in Florida, there is statutory speedy trial. The statute basically delegates to the Florida Supreme Court to give procedural rules that effectuate Florida speedy trial. So Florida Supreme Court has then done that. And there's 2 flavors of speedy trial in Florida. One is speedy trial without waiver and speedy trial with waiver. So what that means is when you get arrested, there's speedy trial provisions under the procedural rules that you can then engage. But once you waive it, then you go into the second rule, which is very easy to waive. Then you go into the second rule, which you can demand speedy trial, and that puts together, but it rolls along no speedy trial until you demand it. So it's speedy trial with demand. So that's sort of just a framework for complexity to understand how in fact, the Florida Supreme Court, one of the leading cases in Florida on speedy trial is a case I argued before the Florida Supreme Court called Jaquel Davis versus State. You can see the oral arguments on my Rumble channel.
Jaquel Davis versus State.
Yeah, Jaquel Davis versus State.
I was going to make a jump joke, but we're not on Rumble. Go on, sorry.
Yes, and the issue in that is what constitutes arrest for the purpose of speedy trial.
Oh my God, yeah, that's a good question.
Right, and it's very, and everybody agrees if you're booked and you've got your thumbprints and you're formally arrested, that is sufficient to trigger speedy trial. But can you have a de facto arrest?
Of course you can. For the purposes of the Fourth Amendment, you can. So I would assume for the purposes of speedy trial, you can.
Unless you're talking to the Florida Supreme Court.
Unreal, right?
Yes, it's unreal. It's Florida Supreme Court. It's embarrassing, but there it is. The Florida Supreme Court basically has eliminated de facto arrest for speedy trial.
So to the people in the chat who may not follow exactly, there's a couple different Latin phrases that mean nothing important. De facto means by the facts. De jure means by the law. Lawyers will use this. De facto speedy trial means de facto arrest means according to the facts, are you arrested for the purposes of X? Now, for the purposes of the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protections, you are arrested at the moment you are not free to leave. So let me be very clear on this. Let's get the actual legal standard. The moment a reasonable person would reasonably perceive that they are not free to leave. So if a officer turns on their cherries, pulls you over, you are not free to leave. You cannot drive your car off. You are under arrest for the purposes of the Fourth Amendment, which means that any search must be reasonably supported by probable cause, a warrant or an exception to the warrant requirement, or consent. That's it. Same thing with seizure. They cannot further seize you. They cannot handcuff you and take you away or whatever without sufficient basis for the purposes of the Fourth Amendment. That is a de facto arrest. Now, that doesn't just happen when you get pulled over. There's a federal case on this that happened at an airport, and a person was stopped by plainclothes federal agents in an airport, and they were stopped and questioned. They said, "Hey, what the hell is going on? Am I free to go?" And they said, "Yeah," if I remember the case right. The person turned around to walk away, and then they said, no, stop. You can't move. You're under arrest at that point for the purposes of the Fourth Amendment. Again, search and seizure, you are now under arrest because you are not free to leave. If a police officer issues a command like freeze, halt, get down, those are indications. But this is not an easy question.
Okay, but let me throw shade on your argument.
Yes, do it. Yeah, God damn it.
Okay, my lawyer argument friend, because I made that same argument to the Florida Supreme Court, saying that arrest in a search situation should be analogous to a de facto arrest in a speedy trial situation.
Of course.
However, Justice Luck, who is now on the 11th Circuit Federal Court of Appeals appointed by Trump, was engaging me on this very point, saying that the Fourth Amendment search and seizure de facto arrest is not the same as the de facto arrest for speedy trial purposes. He was distinguishing between arrest. So you could have an arrest for purposes of search and seizure law, but it would not be arrest in order to trigger speedy trial.
Which and I'm very much to think of.
Huh?
It's an insane proposition.
It's insane. I agree with you, but that was the court was arguing, pushing me back, and I'm like, I believe in broad-based protections of the Constitution to get from the individuals as a shield against government action. But this is why we don't have a speedy trial right, because these courts narrowly construe our rights and provide so many exceptions. And it's like, well, that's arrest for the purpose of search, but it's not arrest for the purpose of speedy trial. And it's like, well, you're making distinctions. Why not broadly construe our rights to protect citizens? But that's not the way. That's not what courts do.
Now, I can make a rough assessment of the court's argument in the opposite direction, though, right? Like, because if I am under arrest for the purposes of the Fourth Amendment, you're saying I am seized now for the purposes of search. Now, maybe the result of the search does not develop sufficient cause to affect the type of arrest we think of, right? Like, they don't have probable cause to take you down and book you. They cannot actually charge you with a criminal action. They can't do all of those things. However, over the subsequent days or over review of evidence or some sort of seizure that occurs, they do develop sufficient probable cause. Maybe it takes 2-3 weeks for a drug lab to get back. Well, now we're saying probable cause for the search and seizure and the sufficiency of arrest attached at the time. But now we've got an artificial delay of 2 to 3 weeks based on the processes of a drug lab or something else. Now we have an arrest that occurs after that, which would then require maybe another 5 to 6 weeks to serve a warrant, or not 5 to 6 weeks, 5 to 6 days to serve a warrant and bring someone in. So now we have an arrest that has occurred effectively a month after the initial arrest. Steve, I have a question for you. I know my answer and I'll give it to you in a minute. Should we say that speedy trial still attaches to that initial arrest, even though there's now a month delay between the initial arrest and the seizure for the purposes we would consider for speedy trial, which means that they now subsequently have 1 month to get you to trial rather than 60 days. Well, should we do that?
Those are not the timelines we're talking about.
Well, but the answer, of course, is yes, it should.
Well, of course it should. But you're making it appear, by saying a month. Boy, that's speedy. No, we're talking year.
Yeah, I know.
2 years.
But I'm saying, like, so
I think an arrest is an arrest. If you are placed under arrest de facto, it should apply for speedy trial and search. But speedy trial is under the Sixth Amendment. And I got a lot of pushback from the judges about being loosey-goosey with that terminology. But damn it, an arrest is an arrest. My client Davis in that case was he was arrested. He was taken. There was some robbers and they ran into this house and he was in the house, not suspected of the robbery. They pull everybody out of the house, lock him in handcuffs, put him in the back of cars,
arrested,
take him to the police station, interrogate him in a room for 8 hours.
As double secret arrested at that point.
And then say, okay, you're free to leave. You were never under arrest.
Reset the clock, apparently.
Yeah, and
fucking unreal.
According to the Florida Supreme Court, that was not an arrest.
That's insane. Okay, let's
because 2 years later, when the other guy pled, he said, "Oh, I'll get a better deal by fingering your guy." And then 2 years later, I know you like the fingering guys.
I'm just gonna say, if I'm gonna go to prison, I hope someone's fingering me first. Let me hit these super chats, and we got to go. Scott Roush says, Nick is lacking punctuality and his sexual leaning appears to favor those of the same gender. Elephant says, you need a haircut. That's true, and I hate you for it. Shelly Scolari says, Jehovah's Witnesses are against blood transfusions. That's what I was talking about earlier with that complexity of religious freedom coming up across for children specifically. Ash Ukihime says, hey, Nick, it's been a while. I was stained. How's the family doing? They're doing okay. My family's doing good. Unfortunately, my girlfriend got the Rona-chan. Can you send prayers? Thank you. I will. Do you want me to pray for her to survive or to not survive? Let me know. Ellie Fan says, y'all are drama queens. Get that grift. See Goody says, Nick, the puppet master pulling all the strings. Tara Rayner, Saturday night, I was 15 seconds behind a vehicle that struck a man who stepped in front of them. Dark road with 80 kilometers per hour speeds. 74-year-old died in front of me. Please do happy stuff. He's stuck in my head. We're doing heavy stuff tonight. K-Dog says, typically pop in for the streams, but Gosney caught my eye. 5 minutes in, I'm locked in. Wish the guy was my professor. YouTube crush it. Hey, thank you. I'm not your buddy, guy says, hey, Ricada, do super chats get removed by YouTube? I don't think so. Xander Rand says, didn't think my super chat was going to get clipped. Get clipped. Tara Rayner, you could force someone to pull the trigger on themselves when you know as long as they're after you, your kid isn't getting treatment, they're liable. Yeah, I think so. That's the Maya trial. Torque wrench in My Cousin Vinny is less sexy after Isaac Baruch discuss like how much torque is your depth. Come on. Great Jedi says, stupid but important question. How did you deal with leaving a stuffy behind from a trip while waiting for said stuffy to be mailed back to you? Just look, you have to teach your kid that permanence is a thing and that they will get their thing back. Have them focus on something else while they wait for their good friend to return. Kate C, aka Snake Plush Kitten says, Roy Gallagher is the best guitarist, Nick. Okay.
Well,
Allegan News says,
Page, man, I'll tell you, Jimmy Page, songwriter, creativity, vision, showmanship. I'm just saying the total package.
Halligan News says, Steve needs to do heavy metal VBS. I think Vacation Bible School. Malcaron says, Nick, did you find out about the promo not working? Is it a one-time code? I was using it to get lean because I'm trying to work off the fat shame. I will try and find the answer to that. And then Sherry Lawlessness says he almost wants to take the plea deal because he wants it over with. It's going on 4 years now. Yeah, of course.
That's a big pressure, especially people that are in the primary weapon that the state has is to be able to land you in jail and get you stuck in there and rack up time. And eventually you're just like, I'll plead. Just, you mean you're going to give me time served? Let me get out of here. I'll plead to the felony.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, guys, we're switching to Rumble. I'm gonna go to the bathroom again because I have the prostate of a 7,000-year-old man who wants to control the world. I took George Soros's prostate. We're gonna go to Rumble. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Steve will tell you more about his books, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about this. See you in a minute, guys. Peace. Peace. Follow the link. It's in the description in the pin chat. I got a piece so bad. That was not the one I wanted to click on.
What's going on?
Click on that.